Hey there, Cryptid family. If you enjoy the chills, don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you're new, and hit that notification bell if you're not afraid of the whispers. Tips to survive the Headless Horseman. You hear the hooves before you see him. A steady, relentless rhythm cutting through the night. The air turns sharp with the scent of damp earth and decayed leaves, the wind carrying whispers of something unseen. Then the silence, a void where sound should be, just before the rider appears. The Headless Horseman is no mere ghost story. He is a force of vengeance, a relentless hunter bound to blood and fear. He doesn't tire. He doesn't bargain. And if you cross his path, he won't stop until he claims what he's after, your head. But there are ways to survive, ways to outlast him, to escape his grasp before the blade comes down. You must move carefully, think quickly, and most of all, never make a single mistake. Here are 10 ways to keep your head while others lose theirs. Tip 1. Stay off the old roads at night. There's a reason the Headless Horseman is a legend tied to lonely roads. He doesn't haunt bustling cities or well-lit villages. He doesn't wander into crowded taverns or chase victims through busy town squares. No, his domain is the empty, forgotten paths, the ones winding through the trees, where the night is thick and full of secrets. If you value your life, stay off the roads at night. The old roads hold too much history, too much blood in the dirt. These were the paths once taken by weary soldiers, desperate deserters, and doomed travelers who never made it to their destinations. The horseman knows them well. They are where he was first struck down, and they are where he hunts to this day. You might think you're safe in a car, speeding down an old highway in the dead of night, headlights cutting through the mist. You aren't. The horseman does not follow the rules of men or machines. Some have reported seeing him gallop beside their cars, his stallion matching their speed with unnatural ease, sparks flying from phantom hooves. Others have claimed the lights flickered, the engine sputtered, and when they looked in the rearview mirror, there he was, a massive silhouette, sword raised high, ready to strike. But it's not just modern travelers who need to worry. The legend speaks of lone riders on horseback, lost carriages never reaching their destination, and wandering souls who took a shortcut through the woods, only for their bodies to be found days later, headless. What happens if you find yourself on one of these roads after dark? First, don't stop, not for anything. If you see a figure standing in the road, don't assume it's a lost traveler. If you hear hoofbeats behind you, don't turn around. The horseman preys on hesitation. The moment you slow down, the moment you let fear dictate your actions, he knows he has you. Second, never try to outrun him directly. You can't. He's faster than you, no matter what you're driving or riding. The only way to lose him is to leave the road entirely. If you see an opening, a clearing, a field, a river, take it. He is bound to the paths of men, tethered to the roads that bore his demise. If you can escape into wild, untamed land, he may not follow. Finally, don't listen to the voices. Many who have encountered the horseman report, hearing whispers just before he appears. Some claim it's the wind, but others swear they heard their own name spoken from the darkness. If you acknowledge it, if you respond, even with a breath, you've already invited him closer. The safest thing you can do, plan your travels wisely. If your route takes you through an old colonial road, leave before the sun sets. If you find yourself driving alone at night, stick to highways and well-lit streets. The horseman thrives in shadow. Don't give him the darkness he needs to ride. Because once he's found you, the road ahead only leads to one place, your final stop. Tip 2. Avoid Sleepy Hollow and other cursed lands. Some places should be left alone. They carry too much history, too much death. And the Headless Horseman's legend isn't just about his presence, it's about the land itself. Sleepy Hollow isn't just a name in a ghost story. It's a real place, soaked in the past and thick with the weight of what lingers. But it's not the only cursed land he haunts. Stories of a headless rider stretch beyond the hollow, whispering through different towns, different roads, and different generations. Some claim he appears near old battlefields where soldiers fell. Others swear he rides along riverbanks where spirits gather. Wherever the horseman was betrayed, wherever his rage was sealed into the ground, those places became his hunting grounds. And if you set foot there, you are inviting him to find you. The horseman doesn't need an invitation like a vampire, nor does he need a physical body like a man. He is a force of vengeance, a ghost bound to the echoes of violence. Step into his cursed land, and you step into his domain. He will know you are there. He will sense your heartbeat, the warmth of your blood, the weight of your head upon your shoulders. And if he marks you, it doesn't matter if you leave. He may follow. How do you know if you're in his territory? There are signs. Pay attention. The sudden, unnatural silence. The forests go still, the wind dies, and not even the crickets sing. Something is listening. Lanterns flicker, lights dim, electronics malfunction, flames waver, and a cold breath moves through the air. The darkness thickens. Shadows stretch the wrong way. They lean toward something unseen, pulled toward a rider that is not yet visible. You hear the echo of hooves, distant, rhythmic, relentless, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but always getting closer. If you experience any of these, turn back. Now, you might think you're safe during the day. You aren't. Many who visit cursed lands report feeling watched, even under the sun. The horseman may not strike while daylight holds him at bay, but he remembers those who trespass. When night falls, when you are alone again, that's when he comes. The only way to truly stay safe is to respect the boundaries of the dead. Do not wander into places whispered about in fear. Do not visit locations where strange disappearances are common. If the locals refuse to step into certain woods, listen to them. There is a reason these places hold their reputation, and there is a reason people who ignore the warnings don't return. Because the horseman is waiting. And the moment you cross into his cursed land, your fate may already be sealed. Tip 3. The smell of blood draws him in. Blood calls to the dead. It marks the wounded, the dying, and the ones soon to follow. And for the Headless Horseman, the scent is a beacon, a trail leading him straight to his next victim. You must understand what he was before he became a legend. The horseman was a soldier, cut down in battle, his body left to rot while the war raged on. His existence was violence. He lived and died by the sword, and now, even in death, he is drawn to it. Blood on the battlefield, blood on the road, blood dripping from an open wound. It all sings to him like a battle cry. If you are bleeding, you are already in danger. It doesn't matter how small the injury is. A deep gash or a shallow scrape makes no difference to him. The horseman doesn't hunt for logic. He hunts for scent, for the raw, unmistakable presence of life slipping away. If you have even a drop of blood on you, you're leaving a trail only he can follow. How to protect yourself. Cover your wounds immediately. If you're injured, do not leave the wound exposed. The faster you stop the bleeding, the better your chances of going unnoticed. Bandages, cloth, anything that seals the wound is a layer of protection between you and him. Mask the scent. In folklore, certain herbs and oils were used to mask the smell of blood from spirits and beasts alike. Strong scents, like burning sage, crushed mint, or even iron filings, have been said to disrupt supernatural trackers. If you're bleeding and have nothing else, press fresh earth over the wound. The scent of soil and decay might be enough to confuse him. Stay away from those who are bleeding. This is harsh, but survival is never kind. If someone in your group is wounded and bleeding heavily, he will come for them first. And if you are too close when he does, you may be taken along with them. Distance yourself. The moment you hear hoofbeats, you must decide, run, or be claimed alongside the doomed. Avoid fresh battlefields and accidents. Any place where blood has recently been spilled is dangerous ground. It doesn't matter if it was from an animal, an old crime scene, or a fresh accident. He knows. Some say he rides through such places at night, retracing his own death over and over, looking for those who remind him of his final moments. What happens if he finds you? The accounts vary, but one thing is certain. If you are marked by blood, you are as good as dead. Survivors who have encountered him while bleeding describe an overwhelming cold washing over them, a sudden heaviness in their limbs. The shadows around them deepen, stretching unnaturally. Then the hoofbeats, steady, deliberate, closer with every breath. Most don't live long enough to see him arrive. If you feel his presence, if your body suddenly betrays you with weakness, with stillness, run. Run even if your legs refuse to move as they should. Run even if you know it won't be enough. Because the moment you stop, the moment you surrender to that inevitable, suffocating fear, his blade is already on its way down. Tip 4. Never call his name aloud. There are rules when dealing with spirits, and the first is simple. Do not invite their attention. The Headless Horseman is not some mindless ghost wandering aimlessly through the night. He listens, he waits, and if you speak his name aloud, you may as well be lighting a beacon in the dark, calling him straight to you. Legends have long warned against speaking the names of the dead. Whether out of respect or fear, people understood that names have power. A name is more than just a word. It is recognition. It is a summons. It is a whisper that can wake something best left sleeping. The Headless Horseman is no different. What happens if you say his name? Many who have dared to say it aloud have reported the same series of events. The wind changes. It dies down all at once or suddenly picks up, an unnatural shift that makes the air feel wrong. A silence follows. The world around you holds its breath. No insects, no birds, just stillness, waiting. A chill creeps in. It doesn't matter if you're indoors, standing by a fire, or bundled in layers. A deep bone-settling cold seeps in, as if something ancient has turned its gaze upon you. Then, the first hoofbeat, distant, slow, but coming closer. It doesn't always happen immediately. Some have spoken his name and felt nothing at first. But later that night, when they were alone, the signs began. The flickering lights, the creeping shadows, the steady, rhythmic approach of something unseen. By the time they realized what they had done, it was too late. How to protect yourself. Do not speak his name, not even in jest. It doesn't matter if you're laughing, telling a story, or trying to scare your friends. If you say his name, you acknowledge him, and once acknowledged, he may acknowledge you in return. If someone else says it, do not repeat it. The danger increases with repetition. Saying it once may put you on his radar. Saying it multiple times, that's a direct invitation. The more it is spoken, the stronger his presence becomes. If you slip up, take immediate action. Some folklore suggests ways to counteract an accidental invocation. Burning sage or ringing a bell is said to break the connection. Throwing salt over your left shoulder is an old protection ritual. If you are near flowing water, cross it immediately. Many spirits cannot follow. Never write it down in blood or stone. Names carved into wood, scratched into stone, or written in blood have lasting power. Some locations remain haunted simply because a name was marked there long ago. If you must write about him, use caution. Ink fades, but curses do not. What if you hear someone else whisper it? This is where things get worse. There have been accounts of travelers alone in the woods, only to hear a voice murmur his name, not from their own lips, but from the darkness around them. Sometimes it sounds like a friend. Sometimes it sounds like their own voice, repeating what they swore they never said. If this happens, do not respond. It's a trick, a lure, a test of your fear. The moment you acknowledge the voice, the moment you speak back, you are answering a call that should never have been made. And when you do, the whispers stop, because he is already on his way. Tip 5. Keep your head low, literally. The Headless Horseman doesn't hunt like other spirits. He doesn't chase the living out of revenge, nor does he linger aimlessly like a lost soul. His purpose is simple, primal. He takes heads to replace the one he lost, and that means one thing. If he can't see your head, he might not see you at all. This is not superstition. Survivors, those lucky enough to escape, have told eerily similar stories. They felt him coming before they saw him. The air turned heavy, their bodies filled with an unnatural stillness, like something was forcing them to bow. Those who instinctively ducked, who pressed themselves to the ground or hid beneath cover, were sometimes overlooked. Others who stood, frozen in fear, found themselves staring up at a blade as it fell. Why does it work? There are theories, none of them comforting. He doesn't recognize headless shapes. Stories tell of travelers who tripped and fell just as the horseman rode past, only to be left untouched, crawling through dense underbrush, ducking behind gravestones, or pressing yourself against the ground might confuse him, making you just another shadow in the night. He follows instinct, not reason. The horseman is a force of vengeance, locked in an endless hunt. If he cannot immediately see ahead to claim, he may ride on, seeking easier prey. How to use this to survive? If you hear him approaching, drop immediately. Do not hesitate. If you are in an open area with no shelter, get low. Press yourself against the ground. Curl in on yourself and remain still. This is not about hiding. It's about becoming unnoticeable. Use natural cover. Low stone walls, ditches, thick bushes, or even a fallen tree can serve as makeshift protection. Stay behind something solid and keep your head below its height. Do not peek over. If you must move, stay low and crawl. Standing, running, or even crouching makes you more visible. If you have no choice but to move, do so on all fours, keeping your head as low as possible. Many spirits do not register movements that mimic the dead or the unnatural. If you do not look like prey, you may not be hunted. Avoid casting a tall shadow. The horseman moves by more than just sight. He senses shapes and movements in the dark. If your shadow is long and distinct, it marks you as a target. If you can, move where your shadow blends into the surroundings or where it disappears entirely. What if you can't hide? There will be times when dropping to the ground isn't an option, when you're caught in the open, too exposed, too close. If this happens, there is one last, desperate trick. Bow your head. It is dangerous, uncertain, and not always reliable. But some old stories claim that those who lower their heads in feigned submission, who make themselves appear headless, have sometimes been spared. The horseman, in his endless search for a replacement, may pass over those who seem already claimed by fate. But be warned, this is not a guarantee. For if he suspects the truth, if he sees even the slightest movement, the faintest glimpse of a trembling breath, he will know. And once he does, there will be no more hiding. Only the sound of steel and the swift final stroke of his blade. Tip 6. Sacred ground offers some protection. The Headless Horseman is relentless, but even he has his limits. There are places where his power fades, where his presence wavers, as though an invisible barrier holds him back. These are the places where the dead are honored, where the ground has been blessed, where something older and stronger than his curse lingers in the earth. If you are being pursued, seek sacred ground. Why does it work? No one knows exactly why, but folklore offers clues. Some believe that sacred ground, churchyards, consecrated cemeteries, and even certain historical battlefields bind spirits to the realm of the dead, preventing them from hunting the living. Others claim it is less about the land itself and more about the rituals performed there. Prayers, burials, and the weight of human belief may create a kind of barrier, a force that disrupts spirits bound by vengeance. For the horseman, who is neither fully ghost nor fully flesh, sacred ground may represent a boundary he cannot cross. But be warned, not all ground is equally protected. Where you should go. Churchyards and cemeteries. Churchyards have long been known as places of refuge. Some claim spirits bound by violence cannot set foot on ground dedicated to peace. If you can reach an active churchyard, one still tended, still watched over by the living, you may find safety within its gates. Cemeteries are trickier. The horseman is a spirit of the dead, and in neglected graveyards, his power may not be weakened. If the cemetery is abandoned, overgrown, or feels wrong in its silence, do not assume you are safe. The dead do not always keep each other at bay. Battlefields and memorial sites. Some places where soldiers fell are haunted by more than just memories, but battlefields that have been consecrated, where names are honored, where offerings and prayers are made, may hold protective energy. The horseman was a soldier in life. He may hesitate before stepping onto land that recognizes the fallen, especially if his own name was never laid to rest. Monasteries and old ruins. Some of the oldest religious sites retain power even in ruin. Shrines, stone churches, and abbeys where monks once prayed can still carry protection, even if the people are long gone. But be cautious. Not all ruins remain holy. If the place feels abandoned in spirit as well as stone, its protection may have faded. What you should avoid. Fake sanctuaries. Not all places that look sacred truly are. Abandoned churches, broken graveyards, and places of forgotten faith may no longer hold protection. Some places were never meant to be safe in the first place. Some were built over older, darker things. If you step onto sacred ground and feel nothing but emptiness, you are not safe. Places of betrayal or bloodshed. Be careful where you seek refuge. If a place of worship has a history of violence, if blood was spilled on its altar, if it became a place of war rather than peace, then its protection is lost. Worse, it may amplify the horseman's power instead of weakening it. How to know if you're safe. If you manage to reach sacred ground, stop and listen. Pay attention to the signs around you. The air should feel lighter, not heavier. If you step onto the land and feel the same weight, the same unnatural cold, you are not beyond his reach. Animals should not fear it. If birds still sing, if insects still hum, if life still stirs in the trees, you may have found a true sanctuary. If the world is silent, run. The wind should not follow you inside. If you feel the cold breath of night creeping over the threshold, as if something unseen is still reaching for you, then you are standing on a boundary, not within safety. What if you can't find sacred ground? Then you must make your own. There are ancient ways, rituals whispered down through generations. If you have salt, draw a circle around yourself and do not step outside it. If you have iron, press it into the earth. Some say a simple prayer can be enough, not for divine intervention, but to remind the world that you belong to the living. Because if the horseman finds you without protection, he will not hesitate. He will not pause. And once his blade is raised, no amount of faith will stop its descent. Tip 7. Firelight can drive him back. The Headless Horseman is a creature of darkness. He rises with the night, his presence thickening the air like a living shadow. He moves unseen until it is too late, a specter bound to the cold and the void where his head once was. But there is something that disrupts the dark, something he recoils from: fire. Why fire works. Legends of spirits, demons, and restless dead often share a common weakness. They fear the flame. Fire is a force of life, a purging light that breaks through the unnatural. It exposes what lurks in the shadows, disrupting things that should not exist in this world. And for the horseman, who thrives in moonless nights and fog-covered paths, fire is an unwelcome presence. Survivors tell stories of lanterns flaring just before he appears, torches sputtering as if resisting his approach. But others claim that when flames are held high, when fire is wielded with intent, he hesitates, not stopped, not defeated, but slowed. And in the chase against the horseman, even a few stolen seconds can mean the difference between survival and death. How to use fire against him. Carry a torch or lantern at night. If you must travel after dark, do not rely on modern lights alone. LED flashlights are useful, but fire is older than him. A torch, an oil lantern, even a candle can serve as a warning and a weapon. Hold the flame between you and him. If you sense his presence, do not run blindly. Turn, face the darkness, and raise your flame high. Fire is both light and movement, two things that disrupt his hunting patterns. If he hesitates, you have a moment to escape. Set barriers of fire. In older stories, those pursued by vengeful spirits would light rings of fire around themselves, creating a protective boundary. If you have the means, a bonfire, a burning torch, even gasoline and a match set ablaze between you and him. Spirits that belong to the night do not cross fire easily. Use ash as a last resort. If you have no flame, ash can serve as a remnant of fire's protection. Some folklore suggests that drawing a line of cold ashes across a threshold can keep certain spirits at bay. If you have nothing else, take a handful of ash and mark yourself with it. It won't stop him, but it may confuse him just long enough for you to get away. What if fire fails? Fire may weaken him, but it will not destroy him. He is not bound to flesh, not something that can be burned like ordinary creatures. If he does not stop, if the flame wavers, but does not drive him back, you have only one option: run. Because firelight may hold him at bay, but once his sword is raised, no blaze, no matter how bright, will stop its fall. Tip 8. A silver coin could save your life. There is a reason silver has been used against spirits, demons, and monsters for centuries. It is more than just metal. It is a ward, a weapon, a tether between the living and the dead. And when facing the Headless Horseman, it may be your only chance to bargain for your life. Why silver matters? Throughout folklore, silver has been known to hold supernatural properties. Some say it repels evil, burning creatures of darkness upon contact. Others believe it disrupts curses, breaking the chains that bind restless spirits to this world. But with the Headless Horseman, the power of silver is different. It is not a weapon against him. It is an offering. The horseman's greed. Though he is a spirit of vengeance, the horseman was once a man, a soldier, a warrior who fought and died with a blade in hand. And like many men who fell in battle, his story is tied to unfinished business. Some legends say that mercenaries of his time rode not just for duty, but for coin. Payment for war, payment for loyalty, payment for blood. And though he is long dead, some believe that his greed has not faded, that even now when all else fails, silver might be enough to make him hesitate. How to use silver to survive? Carry a silver coin at all times. A single pure silver coin, not a modern alloy, but true silver, should be kept on your person. This is not for luck. This is for the moment when escape is no longer possible, when his shadow looms over you and the sword is about to fall. If cornered, offer the coin without a word. Do not speak. Do not plead. Hold the coin out in your palm, let it catch the moonlight, and let him decide. There are stories, whispers from those who should have died, who claim the horseman paused, his unseen gaze locked onto the silver before riding away into the mist. Never throw it in desperation. If you toss the coin, if you cast it aside without intent, you may insult him. The horseman is not a beggar. If you offer silver, it must be done with reverence, as if paying a toll to a force beyond human understanding. If done correctly, it may distract him. If done carelessly, it may enrage him. Mark a doorway with silver. In some folklore, placing silver above a door or along a window ledge creates a boundary spirits hesitate to cross. If you have no other means of protection, pressing a silver coin against wood or stone may help keep him at bay. What if he takes it? If he accepts the silver, do not move until he is gone. Some claim he will ride away without another glance. Others swear he waits, as if considering whether the payment is enough. If he lingers, stay absolutely still. The moment you breathe too loudly, the moment you let your guard slip, he may decide silver is not enough and take your head instead. What if he refuses? Then your fate is already sealed. Because once the horseman has decided you are beyond bribery, beyond mercy, no amount of silver, no wealth in the world will stop his sword from claiming what he came for. Tip 9. Decapitation is his curse and his weakness. The Headless Horseman does not kill for sport. He does not haunt for revenge alone. He rides for one purpose, to claim the heads of the living. It is his curse, his hunger, his endless compulsion. But in that obsession lies his greatest weakness. He is incomplete, and what is incomplete can be defeated. Why this matters? A spirit like the horseman is bound to his fate, repeating the same relentless cycle of hunting, beheading, and vanishing into the night. He does not stop because he cannot. He is locked in the eternal torment of his own unfinished death. But legends tell of rare moments, fleeting instances, when the right force, the right weapon, or the right moment can sever his connection to this world. And the key to breaking a curse is understanding its source. How to use his curse against him. A blade for a blade. The horseman fights with a weapon meant to separate head from body, and sometimes the only way to survive is to turn his own method against him. A sharpened blade, an axe, or even a makeshift weapon capable of cutting through form and shadow has been said to weaken him if struck at the right moment. Some stories claim he can be banished by a blow that mimics the one that created him. A decapitating strike. Destroy his stolen trophies. The horseman does not simply kill, he collects. Some believe that the skulls of his past victims hold pieces of his power. If you find yourself near a hidden grave, a cursed shrine, or an unholy altar where heads are kept, destroying these relics may weaken him, burn them, smash them, scatter them to the wind. Without his trophies, he may lose his tether to this world. Find his true head. The oldest legends claim his original skull is hidden somewhere near the place of his death. If it is found, if it is taken beyond his reach, he will lose his grip on this world. Some say returning it to hallowed ground can put him to rest. Others say it must be cast into running water, beyond the grasp of the dead. But be warned, if he knows you seek his head, he will hunt you with more fury than ever before. Strike while he is weakest. The horseman is strongest at midnight, under the full moon, and in the deepest part of the night. He is weakest at dawn, on hallowed ground, and when his hunt is disrupted. If you must fight him, do it when the first rays of sunlight touch the horizon. It may be the only advantage you have. What if you fail? If you strike and miss, if you burn his trophies, but he does not vanish, if you seek his head but never find it, you will have made him angrier than ever before. And an angry horseman does not just take your head, he makes sure no one ever finds it. Tip 10. Outrun him by reaching dawn. The Headless Horseman is a creature of the night. His power is strongest when darkness reigns, when the moon is high and the roads are empty. But no spirit, no matter how vengeful, can fight against the oldest force in existence, the coming of the sun. Dawn is the only true escape. Why sunrise matters. The horseman is bound to the night, just as he is bound to his curse. He does not ride under the sun, does not hunt beneath a bright sky. When the first light touches the horizon, his presence fades. He does not vanish instantly, but as the world shifts from shadow to day, he loses his grip. There are countless stories of near misses, of riders chased through the woods, of travelers who heard the hoofbeats closing in, only to see the first light of dawn and feel the air around them change. The horseman does not ride in daylight. He may push his limits in the gray moments before sunrise, but the moment true light touches the earth, he is gone. How to survive until dawn. Keep moving, no matter what. If the horseman is hunting you, do not stop. Do not look back. Do not hide. The night is his domain, and standing still only makes you an easier target. Your only chance is to run, to put as much distance between yourself and him as possible before the sun rises. Find high ground. The first light of dawn touches the highest places first. Climb a hill, reach a mountain top, or even stand at the highest point in a town. If you can see the sun before the horseman reaches you, you may just survive. Stay near the eastern horizon. The horseman rides through places where shadows are deepest, where darkness lingers longest. If you must flee, run toward the east, chase the sunrise, follow the path where the first golden light will break through. If you can reach the horizon before he catches you, the morning will take him before he takes you. Cross a natural barrier. Some legends say that if you can reach a river, a deep valley, or even an old bridge just before sunrise, the horseman will not be able to follow. The breaking of night, combined with the physical boundary, is said to cut off his pursuit. What if you don't make it in time? If you see the last stars fade and the horizon shift from black to gray, you must push forward with everything you have left, because in those final moments, as the first slivers of daylight creep across the land, the horseman is at his most desperate. He will ride faster. He will not hesitate. He will try to reach you before the light does. If he does, if the sky is still dark when his blade swings, there will be no sunrise for you. But if you can hold on just a little longer, if you can survive those final seconds before dawn breaks, then you will live. Because once the light touches your skin, once the morning takes hold of the world, the horseman is gone until night falls again. The Headless Horseman is no mere ghost story. He is not a fleeting shadow, not a forgotten legend buried in time. He rides still, bound to the night, to the roads, to the blood and fear of those who do not heed the warnings. You now know the rules. You know how to avoid him, how to run, how to fight if you must. But survival is not guaranteed, because the horseman is patient. He does not age. He does not rest. He waits for the right moment. The lone traveler, the hesitant rider, the unfortunate soul who dares to speak his name or stray too far into cursed ground. And when that moment comes, when the night is deep and the wind is still, when you hear the distant echo of hooves on the road behind you, it may already be too late. So remember, stay off the old roads, keep your wounds hidden, never call his name, and if you must run, run toward the dawn. Because if you fail, if you make even one mistake, the last thing you will hear before the world turns black is the whistle of a blade through the air.